Okay, I'll warn you guys beforehand, this is going to be a very boring episode, simply because I still left some boring stuff to do, like adding the borders of the paths over here and doing stuff with that. And since I promised, and I'm going to keep that promise, that I would keep this series an uncut series with commentary of me doing everything that involves me building a roller coaster in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, I'm not going to leave this out, and I'm actually going to share some thoughts on things, but I can't promise that this episode will be that useful. It's probably going to be very stupid, simply because I'm going to have to do some things that you simply have to do when you're building coasters, but these are just some of those things that are very boring and even somewhat time consuming to do. So yeah, that's the reason why I might be somewhat quiet in this episode, simply because this is just some boring stuff. So I just kind of want to finish this around, get around doing this, and then move on to some fun stuff again, because we all love the fun stuff, and we don't like the non-fun stuff, obviously. Now, first of all, as you can see, I am doing this terraforming shit, basically because I kind of want to create an area large enough so that I can actually make this wide path, but I don't want to have this little hill going down here, and don't worry about this straight cliff face stuff over here, because that doesn't really matter. I'm gonna put like trees or buildings or whatever I'm gonna put there anyway, so I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger so I have some room to work with. I might also do some buildings in the end, but not entirely sure about that, simply because it's very time consuming again, and it's not a very generic thing. I'll cover at least 1 or 2 buildings though, just to show you guys how I do that stuff and just to have some nice scenery around it. Okay, now it's already bugging, but that's not too much of a problem. And yeah, I'm just gonna smooth this out simply because I have OCD. You don't necessarily have to do this, especially if you place buildings over here. It doesn't really matter what the ground looks like, but I just like the fact that it's a bit more smooth now, because I might as well place some trees or stuff like that over here, and then I kind of don't want to have that weird cliff face. That should be just about enough space for my path, but still I'm not too sure about it, so I'm just gonna extend it a bit. That should do. And don't worry about this thing being too unsmooth or something, it's not that important. So I'm just gonna continue it over here as well. Do make sure that you have enough room though, because you always need to be, well, a bit more careful with this, because it's better to have a surface that's too large than having one that's too small and then noticing it later on and realizing that you don't have enough space to build what you want it to build. This should do for the moment, yeah. So it's time for all the boring cover path stuff on the sides. I'm not entirely sure whether I want to add sidewalks to this though. So, I have no clue actually what to do with that. But I should have enough space. It's kind of going down over here, but that's not too much of a problem. As long as I add a sidewalk that's not conforming, it shouldn't do anything really. Okay, so I'm just gonna get the same border. Always make sure that when you place borders, you place the same borders on both sides. It'll be weird to have different borders and stuff. That is, unless you have different sidewalks as well. In that case, it wouldn't really matter too much. But especially in this case, where I kind of want to have the same things everywhere. I don't want to have... Yeah, because I already made a mistake here. Wow, I should have realized that earlier on. I'm using a different color. Isn't that smart? Okay, I'm just gonna take that full offset. I think that I used this color, perhaps. Did I? It might actually be right though. I'm just gonna test it. Oh, it was actually right. It just looked different. Oh, that's very, very funny. Should be an optical illusion, I guess. Let's see. Is it actually the same? Wow. I'm getting really tricked in here. Yeah, it's actually the same. Wow, it just kind of looks different due to the surroundings and stuff. Interesting. Didn't expect to see a color optical illusion in this game. Now I kind of want to demonstrate that, but I shouldn't do that. This isn't optical illusions, the game. I'm not gonna do stuff like that. But it must be possible with more things. I just had an idea. A stupid idea. Silverette creates optical illusions in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. I should actually give that a shot when I'm bored. Now then. See, that's the problem with stuff like this. You don't have 5 or 6 or 7 curves, so you always need to kind of work with diagonals, and I messed that one up. Still not really sure if I want to add a sidewalk over here. I might just go for it, but then on the other hand, I don't know if that really makes sense, to be fair. I think I have an idea. But before I move on to anything, I kind of do want to make this straight. Simply because maybe I'm going to use some conforming stuff, and I don't want that to happen, so I'm just going to make that straight. Now it should be okay. Kind of. But not entirely. Terraforming is really annoying in Rollercoaster Tycoon 3. One of my biggest hopes is actually that in Rollercoaster Tycoon for what? Rollercoaster Tycoon World, they're actually gonna fix the terraforming engine and make it somewhat more easy to work with and less annoying, because in Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 it can just be a bitch sometimes. Please let this. Why do I keep lowering that? Wow, I'm such an idiot. Okay, this time around I'm not even gonna pay attention to those little edges. Screw it. I'm just gonna terraform it like this, and it's good. And we're good to go. Good. Now let's get Brian's beautiful walls again. Very strange. I don't even have a cold, and yet I feel like my nose is somewhat stuffy. Hate it when that happens. Yeah, I kind of want to, make it about 2 tiles wide everywhere. And once again, 2 tiles, I don't know if I've actually said this before, but 2 tiles wide on diagonal means 2.5 tiles wide to make it look just as wide. So as you can see, the, well, actually, no, for every square that you have on a diagonal, you need to add another half a square. Now, this might not make sense, but I'm actually going to explain it. Why I have no clue, but I'm actually going to explain it. If you have a one tile wide path, and you're going to turn it into a diagonal path, then you're not going to want to do this, because as you see, it looks like it's more narrow now, even though there's still a 1 tile difference. So what I usually do is I add half a tile for stuff like that. For every half a tile that it gets wider, I'm also adding half a tile, and I'll explain that later on. But basically, if you do this, at that 1 half thingy, and then at the diagonals, it's gonna look just about as wide as the straight path. It's not exactly the same, of course, but it comes pretty close. And the same works in, well, a similar fashion with 2 wide paths, where I usually just add 1 square. Because it's too wide, I'm gonna add another square, add that another half thing, and then do the diagonals like I just did with my paths, and then you should be good to go. Like, come on, let's add those diagonals, and oh, I shouldn't mess it up. And there you have it. That's basically how I do most of my paths. Now I just realized that it's actually not like that, I think. No, it isn't. Oops. I think I just terribly messed up. It's for every square that you place horizontally, you need to add half an edge in the diagonal thing. So, yeah, that works way better. That's actually the way it works. So if you have a 1 tile wide path, you need to add half a wall, so half a tile wall, so this little thing. And then if it's too wide, that means 2 times half a wall, so an entire one, and if it's 3 wide, it's going to be 1.5, etc. So that's basically that. Now, it's a shame that you can't remove custom scenery with the, well, removing tool. So now I need to do it manually, piece by piece. That's very annoying. Whereas where you have in-game scenery, you can just select an area where you want to delete the scenery, and then it'll automatically delete everything. Okay, so that was that. Just a little off-topic thing, but I thought I'd share that. And let's see. Okay, so actually pretty funny. Now I need to use it right away. So we have a 2 tile wide path, so I should place the thing over here. Yep, that works. And once again, 2 tiles wide, so I should place it over there. yeah, there we go. Now of course, as if you do this more often, you'll get better at it, and you won't have to really trace everything, and you'll just instantly see where you have to place the borders. But still, it's a very handy trick. And this is gonna be a bit tricky, simply because I kind of want to keep it 3 wide, so kind of want to have this. This is gonna be actually really hard, but I feel like this would be the way to go. Yeah, but this is just a different thing because the sidewalk disappears there, and we also go down there, but that shouldn't pose too much of a problem, honestly. Let me get that half piece and a diagonal piece. Beautiful. Though I must say I'm not entirely sure about doing this. I think I have an idea. I'm just gonna remove this because I don't need that. I am going to go to this thingy and put the same border on the other side. So where is CTR's paths, and get those straight thingies. Actually no, I always like to place the curves first, simply because they're harder to do. So half a tile extra and place it there, and once again here, move it half a tile and place it there. There we go, beautiful. And 2 half diagonal pieces should do the trick, exactly like that. And it even works for curves where you don't go in the same direction, so where you have a large curve made out of 2 straight to diagonal pieces, just move it half a tile and like that. Is that thing conforming? No, it's not. That's actually a good thing. Thank you, thing. And also the same goes for the other side. Move it half a tile and place it there. Now for this middle part, I feel like okay, no, I need half pieces for that. I like how I just became German for a second. I don't know why. I brain fart way too often. No, I'm just gonna do this with some half parts because my OCD doesn't like seeing things that aren't smooth. And for the time being, I'm just gonna place the curves over here. Don't worry, if you want to place buildings over here some time sooner or later, you can always do that, but I always like to place the curves first, just to have that out of the way. Okay, nice. And once again, adding half a tile there. And I feel that at this point, it's going to be safe to remove that sidewalk again. Also, we're going up the hill, so might as well. Though, do I want this thing to be 4 tiles wide? I probably wouldn't want that, honestly. So I kind of want the border to go around over there and do some stuff. I guess. Yeah, I'm just gonna try that. So it's gonna come over here, and then the sidewalk is gonna disappear. Okay, that should work. I think I've covered all of the curves now. Yeah, all of the curves that I needed. Then I always do the diagonals, and then I do the straight parts. That's just the way I work, though. It's not something that I would force upon you, but it's just a way that I find nice to work with. Okay, that's very good. And see, this is what I talked about. This is kind of the boring stuff. That's probably also why I'll keep these episodes a bit longer. What happened to this thing? Damn it, how did I not see that before? But yeah, that's basically why I want to keep these episodes longer as well, simply because, you know, I don't want to cover boring stuff for loads of episodes. I'm just going to do more boring stuff in an episode just to keep the content somewhat of a decent level, I guess. Now it's time for conforming things, but first I kind of want to add the straight pieces here. Though I might as well use conforming pieces for that, so I'm just going to go to trees. With every set, and I've probably said this before, but I can't stress this enough, always, if it does have conforming pieces, they're always in trees for some reason. It's not, the importer doesn't force you to put it in trees. I don't know why people always do that, but for some reason it's just become a general custom scenery creator thing to put conforming pieces in trees. Or foliage, I should say, rather. I don't even know what this thing is called, but it's probably foliage or something like that. But basically, yeah, that menu where you get the flowers and such. I just realized this is no. This is a big fat nope. It's not wide enough, honestly. So, get out of the way, you. You messed up. I'm just gonna... I think I have an idea. I'm just gonna go along with sidewalk. Like that. And end it there. Yeah, that's good. Then I'll have to get that sidewalk again for that one little piece, but whatever. That's not too much of a problem, honestly. Now this has turned into a weird squiggly path. Kind of weird. Don't want to take any air shots of that. This is not how I kind of really wanted it to come out. You shouldn't let your paths zigzag too much, especially if they're as wide as this one, but oh well. I just like the entire idea of having that squiggly stuff going on, and the little trees and the coaster and all of that. Do I still not want a sidewalk over there? No, I don't think I want that. Oops, I don't want to do that either, because that looks ugly. And I'm just gonna finish all of the borders in this path, in this part. So, kind of want to finish this up as well. This doesn't have to be as wide. Also, I'm gonna remove this lamp. I don't want all my lamps to be on the same side. Only if your path is really wide, I would suggest to put lamps on both sides. But if your path is more narrow like this, I would suggest putting, like, I don't know, one lamp over there, and then another one here, and then one over there, etc. Okay, whereas if you have a wide path, for example, you can place them in a parallel line. Like, I would, for example, yeah, I would probably like to place a lamp over here, and one over here, and one over there, simply because then you'll get lamps on both sides. But once again, I think that only really works for wide paths and roads. Now this is a place where I wanted to create a restaurant, so I'm gonna stop right there. But I do want to continue towards the entrance area, where there is still in-game path, which I need to fix soon. And once again, at this point, the terraforming stuff that I left on the ground really helps. It's a sort of guideline to see where you need to go. And I think I need just a half piece. Yeah, that should do. And then some of the diagonals. What? Diagonals? Diagonals again? Maybe it's the problem that I'm recording during my vacation and I'm just like chill out every day, and then oh wait, I need to record Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 as well. Well, let's just do that real quick. And it's probably also because I've kind of lost interest in this whole path thing. I just want to move on with fun stuff. Once again, me and my stupid promises that I always make and probably shouldn't make. Is that nice? Yeah, that's pretty nice. 3 wide should do. It's just a little entrance path. And yeah, don't worry, I'm gonna remove that in-game stuff, and as soon as possible, because it definitely hurts my eyes. Now, I think I've done all the conforming stuff, so it's time to move on to the walls section again, because this set doesn't have conforming large curves. Don't know why, but many sets don't do that. They only have conforming pieces for a few of the most important parts of the set. So the straight parts and the diagonal parts and the half parts and stuff like that, but not actually for the big curves like this one. Speaking of big, this is probably too big. Oh, I should move it like that. Yeah, that works too. Then I can always place something cool in the middle of that square sort of thing. And I might place some rides and stuff over here, but I think I'm going to continue with the curbs anyway. And in the past, I would have definitely spammed sidewalks everywhere. And I'm not doing that these days on purpose, simply because parks don't do that either. You don't see sidewalks everywhere. But it does look pretty fancy, so if you want to place sidewalks everywhere, go ahead, be my guest. But I've kind of stopped caring about that. Same goes for ground shrubbery. I used to spam that everywhere, until at some point I realized it doesn't necessarily make your ride much better. Quality over quantity is what I'd say in both cases. Do I like that? Probably don't. But I'm still gonna do it, I think. Yeah, I'm just gonna go for it. It's probably better to have a path that's too wide than having a path that's too narrow. And if your path is too wide, you can always make it look less wide by adding planters with large trees in them, stuff like that. Or adding things in the middle, like little, well, planters with benches or stuff like that. I mean, large paths are very handy for making your park look nice and open and stuff, but you don't want it to look empty, and as soon as you add many wide paths, you'll take the risk that your park is going to look very empty and basically like in a desert-ish way. It's gonna make sure that you have less trees and attractions going on, and I always like to have more trees and attractions than paths, so yeah, I'd say be careful with that. Is that how wide I want it to be? Yeah, I guess so. This squiggly line curve here is kind of weird. Oh well. If your path has a very weird shape, you don't necessarily have to worry about it anyway, because nobody's really going to notice. If you look at some maps of parks in real life, you're going to be like, whoa, those paths are very weird. But only from an aerial perspective will you really see the weirdness of the paths. So you most likely won't really notice it. It doesn't even look that bad like this, and especially with trees around it, it's not going to be that terrible. It's also something to keep in mind. Don't worry about your rides or coasters looking terrible when you're building them, because when you're adding finishing touches and trees and stuff like that, in the end it's going to look a lot better. Hell, even editing can make your coaster look a lot better in the end. And some good old camera angles, because a ride definitely usually looks less good from an aerial perspective than it does from the side, as you can see. And especially with the advanced camera, with all the nice options that you have in it, your coaster is definitely going to look a lot better than you think it would. Now, is this... No, that's not how wide I want it to be. It should be wider. Okay. So I'm just going to take a couple more diagonals. And I kind of need to hurry up because this episode is already taking quite a while. Very nice. Oh hell, this is also going to be terrible to render. And wow. All of these curbs. And the next episode is not going to be much better. I hope that after these two episodes I can move on to foliage and buildings and stuff like that. Come on, mate. Is that how I want it to be? Yeah, pretty much. Now I do want to add something else over here. Like, I don't really know though. But I want to add something special. But it's not even finished, so I might do that later on. But I do want to add a little wall there before I forget about it. So I should remember that I want to add something special there. So I'm just gonna build that little wall. Don't know exactly what this is supposed to be, but I can always turn it into a nice little boulevard or something with palm trees and stuff. in before people start complaining about palm trees. And yes, I am not a huge fan of generic coasters with a tropical theme, simply because it's so overused and overdone. It's pretty much the big room house of the Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 community, but meh, I'm just gonna go for it anyway, because in some cases I actually really like how it turns out, and despite the fact that it's overused and probably overdone as well, not many people do it these days for some reason, and any coaster with any theme can be good. You shouldn't judge a coaster or a project for that matter on what theme it is, but rather on the way it's executed, because someone can literally take a terrible theme and turn it into an amazing coaster. I remember when I made well, I'm not referring to one of my coasters because that one is absolutely terrible, but I remember when I made a coaster called, what was it called again? Cranberry Twirl. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was terrible. It was the worst thing ever. And then some people went ahead and they were like, we're going to make a sequel to that. It's going to be called Blueberry Yum Yum. And they're still working on it. It might actually be turned into, oh wait, I shouldn't talk about that. But yeah, Blueberry Yum Yum anyway. And it's actually one of my favorite coasters in that sense, because it's so crazy. It's got a ridiculous theme, but it's so well executed, and it's got an awesome color scheme, and the theming is just amazing. So love it when people just take funny and unserious ideas and turn them into great coasters. I mean, and Seven's also done that before when he made parodies of certain coasters, or hell, even people in the RCT3 community, so that's pretty cool. I mean, it's a game after all, as much as some people take it serious in the sense that people spend so much time on it and have contests and everything. It's still a game, and having fun is still the #1 priority. So yeah, I definitely like that aspect about things, and just people trying funny ideas. But basically, I don't know, I can't remember how it got here from tropical theme. Oh wait, yeah, right, that even a tropical coaster can look good, but that was not even my main point. My main point was basically that this is simply a tutorial series in which I teach how to do certain stuff, hopefully, and the tropical theme is just because it's so generic, and you can basically, you don't even have to add any real scenery to it anyway, that it's a good thing to start off with for a tutorial, because yeah, it's easy to learn and also easy to teach, so that's why. Now, is this actually a good idea to do? Because, yeah, I'm just gonna go for it, but the only problem that I have with this is that I think it doesn't have any real columns, like columns without a thing on it. I'm just gonna have to do it like this then. Oh well, it's not too much of a problem, but I wish that it was actually like, I don't know, 4H high, so you wouldn't have to do this. Hell, now I need to even stack 3 of these things. Not sure if that's such a great idea, but it's just that the texture and the shape of this thing in general, I just like it so much. This is actually gonna be fun with planters and lights and all that cool stuff. That's what I like about building these kinds of things. Oh well, that's about it for today, and we've got loads of boring stuff done, and I've been talking about loads of stuff that I shouldn't have talked about, but whatever. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode, in which I'm actually going to do some other boring series.